We're going to be talking about determining the relationship of angles when a transversal intersects two or more parallel lines. Now, notice I said parallel lines, and somebody's going to have to tell you that the lines are parallel, because remember, you can't look at two lines and say, oh, those are parallel. Someone has to tell you, it has to be a symbol, or it has to be understood, and none of those apply. You're going to have to be told. So I'm telling you here that line 1 is parallel to line 2. Also, I want you to notice that when the transversal, which is this line right here, intersects these parallel lines, it forms 8 angles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there is a special relationship as far as being congruent around these angles. The first set we're going to take a look at are angles that are corresponding angles, which are going to be congruent. Our first set is going to be 1 and 5, and notice that angle 1 is on top, angle 5 is on top, and sometimes we call them balcony angles, because on a building they have a balcony if it extends over the apartment. Angles 3 and 7 are also going to be corresponding angles, and notice they're on the bottom like a patio. So the bottom would be the patio angles and the top would be the balcony angles. That's one way you can remember this. Also take a look at 2 and 6, they're both on top, and 4 and 8, they're both on top. So not only are they both on top or both on the bottom, they're also going to be on the same side. See, the 1 and 5 is on the same side of the transversal, and 3 and 7 on the same side as the transversal. And the same thing can be said with those angles on the right-hand side. And they're all going to be congruent. 1 and 5, 3 and 7, 2 and 6, and 4 and 8. Other angles we have, type of angles that we have, are alternate exterior angle. And notice how I highlighted that word alternate, because they're going to alternate across the transversal. One angle is going to be on one side and the other angle is going to be on the other side. So I want you to take a look at our first one, 1 and 8. And notice I said they're alternate exterior angles, so two things are going on. They're on alternate side, and they're also going to be on the outside. Look at this, angles 1 and 2 are on the outside, angles 7 and 8 are on the outside. So the alternate exterior angles are what are going to be congruent. So 1 and 8 are going to be congruent to each other, and 2 and 7 are going to be congruent to each other. Let's take a look at our alternate interior angles. That means it has to be on the inside of the parallel lines. And if you notice, 3 and 6, one is on one side, one's on the other side. They're going to be alternate interior angles, and the other one are going to be 4 and 5. They're going to be our other set of alternate interior angles. And lastly, we're going to take a look at some angles that we've already talked about, and they are our vertical angles. And our vertical angles, don't forget, are formed by the intersection of two lines. There are 4 angles that are going to be made when we have intersecting lines, and the opposite angles are going to be congruent. And so I have angle 1 and angle 4, and angle 2 and angle 3. And down here I'm going to have angles 5 and angle 8, and angle 6 and angle 7. Now, what I would like for you to notice is, you might have noticed this figure over here. I want you to realize that I have two lines here, and I did not say that they were parallel. They're not parallel lines, but I still have a transversal. A transversal can still intersect two or more lines, but you will not have the congruent relationship that you have when the lines are parallel. You'll still have angles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but there's no congruent relationship between them. Now, what both of them do have in common is the fact that they have supplementary angles. Our supplementary angles are going to be 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8. We've already talked about those, and they are supplemental by definition. And we already know, it's understood that those angles are supplementary. Now, going back to our special relationship just with parallel lines in a transversal, we have sets of supplementary angles. Notice angles 1 and 7. They are on the same side, and they are consecutive exterior angles. Consecutive means they're on the same side. And they're they have to be exterior. So that's why 1 and 7 are consecutive exterior angles. And on the other side, our exterior angles are 2 and 8. They're consecutive exterior angles. They're also going to be supplementary. And the same is true for the inside. Angles 3 and 5 are consecutive interior angles, and angles 4 and 6 are going to be consecutive interior angles. These add up to 180, and these add up to 180. And the same thing is true on the other side. So we have a set of angles that are going to be congruent and a set of angles that are going to be supplementary. Now, here I have it written out. For our congruent angles, they're going to be vertical, corresponding, and alternate interior or alternate exterior. And we also have supplementary angles, we said by definition, or they can be consecutive interior or consecutive exterior. All right, let's take a look and see what we have here. All right, we have angle 1, and we're going to tell all the angles that angle 1 is congruent to and the reason why. I like to start off with vertical because that's obvious, and then I will go to corresponding, and then we'll do the alternate. So for angle 1, we see that the vertical angle is going to be angle 4, so that's reason vertical angle. Angle 1 and angle 5, those are corresponding angles. And then we have angle 1 and angle 8. They're going to be our alternate exterior angles. All right, let's look at angle 3. My first vertical angle is going to be angle 2. They're congruent because they're vertical angles. Then angle 3 and angle 6, they're alternate interior angles. And for my corresponding angles, I'm going to have angle 3 and angle 7. So it's 3 and 2 are vertical, 3 and 6 are alternate interior, and 3 and 7 are corresponding angles. Notice both of them are on the bottom. Let's look at angle 6. All right, my vertical angle is going to be 7. So 6 and 7 are congruent because they're vertical angles. Then I have 6 and angle 3. They're alternate interior angles. And then I have angle 6 and angle 2, which are corresponding angles. All right, the last one I have is angle 8 and angle 5. They're vertical angles. Let me bring this up some. I'm going to go back over here. Angle 6 and angle 7. I'll go back to number 3. 6 and 7 are vertical angles. We have angle 6 and angle 3 are alternate interior angles. And then we have angle 6 and angle 2 are corresponding angles. All right, back to number 4. Angle 8 and angle 5 are vertical angles. Angle 8 and angle 4 are corresponding angles, both of them on the bottom. And angle 1 and angle 8 and angle 1 are alternate exterior angles. Now don't forget that angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary by definition. And I can say the same thing about angle 6 and angle 8. They're supplementary by definition. The same thing is true for angle 1 and angle 3. They're supplementary by definition. And I want you to realize that I did let you know that the angles were parallel. All right, now what we're going to do, we're going to fill in the blank. I've told you that the angles are parallel, and here's our transversal. And we're going to, I've indicated the measure of angle 3, which is 77 degrees, and based on that, we're going to fill in the value of our other angles. Okay, angle 1, if this is 77 degrees, angle 1 is going to be 103 degrees because definition of supplementary angles. All right, angle 2 is going to be 77 degrees because these two angles are vertical angles. Angle 4 is going to be 103 because once again we have the definition of supplementary angles. Angle 5, notice these are consecutive interior angles, and consecutive interior angles are supplementary. So that's going to be 103 because of consecutive interior angles. Angle 6 is going to be congruent because they are alternate interior angles. So that's going to be 77. That is alternate interior angles. Angle 77 and angle 7, notice they're corresponding angles, both of them on the bottom, so they're going to be congruent because they are corresponding angles. And angle 8. Now notice that we don't have a relationship with angle 8. So what we have to do is, and this is what I told you all to do, is I want you to look for a way to say, okay, how can I find out what the measure of angle 8 is? Well, if you look, you can say, well, there's several ways you can do this. You know the angle 7 and this angle are going to be the same because they are corresponding angles. So we're going to let angle 7 be 77 degrees. And once that gets to be 77 degrees, you see that we're going to have supplementary angles. So therefore, it's going to be 103 degrees. And I did that because I started with corresponding angles, and then I went to definition of supplementary. I said the angle 7 is 77 degrees because they're corresponding angles, and then when I got here, they are supplementary, so therefore it's going to be 103 degrees. All right, for our last example, I've given you the angle 8 is 104 degrees. So the measure of angle 1, notice that everything is in place. I told you these were parallel lines. Here's our transversal. I have alternate exterior angles, so they're going to be congruent. So if this is 104, that's going to be 104. All right, for angle 2, I want you to notice that this is on the outside and this is on the outside, and so they are going on the same side, so they're going to be consecutive exterior angles. So it's going to be 100, it's going to be 76 degrees because they are supplementary. Consecutive angles are going to be supplementary. All right, let's look at angle 3. Now for angle 3, it doesn't say because there's no relationship here, but what I can do, I can say that 104 and 5 are vertical angles. Here I have it right here. And we know that vertical angles are congruent. So once I move my angle here to measure my angle here to 104, you see that they become consecutive interior angles. So I'm going to say I moved it to vertical angles first, and then I know that they are consecutive interior angles. And now I know that the measure of the angle is 76 degrees. All right, let's look at angle 4. Notice they're on the same side. These are going to be corresponding angles, so they're going to be the same. And we've already said that angle 5 and this angle are vertical angles. All right, angle 6, notice that these are supplementary angles by definition. Supplementary angles. So that means this is going to be 74 degrees. And lastly, for angle 7, once again, we have a situation where it's going to be supplementary. So it's going to be 74 degrees by definition of supplementary angles. And that is how we have, those are the relationships we have when we have parallel lines that are intersected by transversals or by a transversal.